All right. So this conversation could go in any direction. It's going to be a bit like listening to jazz music, right? We don't know. It's like riffing. It's like friends riffing. It's like instruments talking to each other and back and forth like a dialogue. In this way, it's a three-way dialogue. Three-way dialogue, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's an exchange, a bounce.
Three-way exchange. We're going to bounce ideas off each other because we've discovered that the three of us, when we get together, amazing wisdom comes out of just having conversations. And most of the time, the animals and the plants come in and throw their little bits in there as well. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be intuitive. We're just going to be riffing and hoping that magic comes out of it, and that'll be something that somebody else resonates with and enjoys hearing too. So welcome, ladies.
And
Let's get started.
don't let it the jazz bit put you off.
If you
Because
don't
when
like-
Sue and I were chatting this morning on Messenger, I can't even remember why I said it, but I just said, I really don't like jazz. And it was just like a massive general sweeping statement because it's of course like a huge genre, isn't it? And you kind of were like, oh, why don't you like jazz? Or what is it you don't like about jazz? And I was like, well, it's just load of noise and I can't make any sense of it. And it's just I just find it uncomfortable. And then what was fascinating for me was when you went onto AI and looked up, and as I was saying it, I was thinking, oh, that's a bit sweepy statementy, isn't it, Rachel? And then you came back and told me a bit about the history about jazz and the purpose about it, of the goal. And I thought, wow, I really need to listen to it. So I've all morning while I've been prepping food, I've been listening to jazz and there are some pieces that I'm like, oh, I really love this and it feels really good and I can feel my mood changing. Then other ones I'm like, oh, it's really scratchy. But the ones that were really scratchy, I thought I'm going to listen to them a bit differently this time and see if like listen to the different instruments or maybe focus on the cymbals or focus on the sax, and it just changed it a bit. And my partner had been out for about 2.5 hours walking Darcy, and she came back. She said, "You're still listening to jazz." So what had gone from saying, "Oh, I don't like it," which we do with our dogs all the time, don't we? We'll make sweeping statements saying they don't like this, they don't like that, was just really enlightening for me. So yeah.
And I think that's perfect because that's just what our conversations are about. It's about opening doors. You started with a sweeping statement, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And then we went from there. And that's, I think, a beautiful way to segue into this conversation because that's what it's about, right? It's about discovering things and seeing different perspectives that we didn't know that we even had. What do you say, Kim?
Exactly.
I say I still am not a fan of listening, but that's what it's all about, isn't it? And we are called unruly by nature, so we're not here to agree with one another, nor have anyone agree with us. I love prog music and like prog metal all day long, but there's something about jazz I can listen to it. I've listened to a lot of it, in fact, and I'm a huge music person, but I'm also like picky with food. So,
Mm.
if like the wrong combinations of food are put together, I'm like, no. I'm kind of the bento box eater. I like things in their separate spots.
Mm. So
Is
So
that
it's
that's
how
like
is that how you feed your dogs too, Kim?
it is exactly how we feed our dogs. They get to choose what they want to eat rather than have it all mashed together in a bowl. And it's beautiful and it's amazing to watch them select the thing that they like or what they don't like. So, and I think that's why there's all kinds of genres of music and even all kinds of genres within jazz. Is there's some of it that I love, but the super like improv jazz, sometimes it's like I just maybe don't speak the language yet.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good
So,
way of putting it, isn't it?
yeah.
It's like it reminds me of, I'm bringing this back to plants suddenly. It reminds, because we're all sat here with a bottle of essential oil, I'm pretty sure. I've got geranium. Kim's got what?
Palo Santo.
Palo Santo.
And
And
I've got
Sue.
cypress. Cypress.
Oh, so we all got completely, and they're all quite different, aren't they?
Very
But
different.
what I found with my work with the zoopharmacognosy, people can go and Google that if they don't know what it is, was when I'd get my students to smell an essential oil, invariably their reaction, if I told them what it was, like say, I don't know, let's use a one that's quite well known, lavender. And some people would have an immediate reaction of, oh, I like lavender. And others would be like, oh, no, I hate lavender. It reminds me of old ladies or grannies. And so we make these quick assumptions, don't we? And we shut something down because we're just like, no, that's it. And I'd always say to them, just stay a while with it. Like, just wait and just pause. And because we like to express, some people just like, they're like, no, don't like it. It's horrible. And that's it. And then they put the bottle away. But then other people, you can see them kind of like leaning in and then they'll move it away. But then there's this curiosity where they just want to smell another layer to it, which I'm sure must be like our dogs, right? When they've got their noses in the ground and we can just see they're sniffing leaves or some sort of decaying matter, and there'll be so many layers to what's in there, like looking at a work of art. There's so many, like looking at your studio there, Kim. I'm calling it a studio because it looks like
It looks
looks
like
like a
one, doesn't
studio
it?
to me. But that's what I love about smelling stuff, is because even with our noses, which aren't, I don't believe are as good as our dogs' noses, there's so many layers to stuff, but that we're so quick, or I know I am, to dismiss stuff and go, oh no, I don't like that, or I really like that. But well, I might not like it today, but I might like it in, this evening. I might like it tomorrow morning. And I think there's a lot of power in that pausing, isn't there? And going, well, yeah, but just just wait and watch, wait and watch.
Yeah, it's that curiosity, that curiosity. And that brings me to think the more we practice something like that, the more we practice that pause, watch and wait. Don't just, yeah, go with that statement that's like a pre-recording in your head.
Mm.
Move past that. Move, say, what else do I need to? What else not do I need to? What else can I learn from this? What else can I feel? What else can I feel? What does this make me feel? That's a good one. How does it make me feel? It moves us from our head to our bodies, doesn't it?
That's exactly it. That's super powerful statement right there.
Mm.
I think because most of us we start dismissing things, right? That's how fast life moves for us. I think it's like when you offer someone to smell an oil, you offer it to your dogs, it's like you need to sit with it and experience it. And that brings me to like, we don't want to experience anything we don't like. And I remember the first time that I opened a bottle of galbanum oil and I thought it smelled like sweaty socks.
I remember I was there at that Zoom call and you said, "Oh my God, this stinks."
Oh my God, it was awful.
Sweaty socks.
And then I cried for 5 hours and I had no idea really what the oil was. I liked the name, so I tried it. And I found out it was something that was so powerful for grief and releasing grief. And I will tell you today, I still don't like it, but the nuances I pull out of it are completely different. So I think it's what you said, that willingness to be flexible and change that makes all the difference in the world. And that we have to like embrace that we're not going to be the same tomorrow as today. I mean, we're not going to be the same at the end of this call as we are right now. So things are always shifting. And I think if we can like get rid of the chains that bind us into inflexibility, like with our dogs, with ourselves, it really can change the dynamic.
For sure. brings me back to my life. I'd say I've got more freedom than I used to have. I used to be like really rigid. I had work and schedules and plans, and it was really rigid. Whereas I have more freedom in my life. That was a main goal of mine when I set up my business. Was I wanted flexibility. I wanted the freedom to make, to have my own time and spend time with my dog and my partner and do different things. That was important for me. And I can see with Darcy, who's she's three and a half, English pointer. If we look at the breeds as a generalization, you'd be like, oh, people will say, oh, she must need loads of exercise. You must be so fit and run for miles. And yes, some days I can feel it in her. She's like, I need to run today. I just have to run. And if I don't run, then I'm going to be really animated and I'm going to find stuff in the kind of confines of the space you've created for her, or that she's created too. But other days, she's quite happy, like this morning, to play with a ball of wool. But we get really rigid on a dog needs this, A, B, C. And then if you do A, B, C, you will get that outcome. But they're different every moment. Like, and someone said to me a while ago, meet them for the first time in every moment. So you're seeing there, rather than going, that's Darcy, she's an English pointer, she's 3 years old, she needs da 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 da. Like, who is she today? So when in the morning I'm like, hi Darcy, not always, I might be grumpy, like in the morning, it might be early, I might not have slept. But let's paint this, picture of I'm buoyant in the morning, right? I'm like, hi Darcy, what are we doing today? We'll have this little conversation and I'll always tell her what I'm doing. So she knows that some bits are non-negotiable. Like I said, I'm going to be on a call for 2 hours. It shouldn't be 2 hours, but potentially it could be 2 hours. And she'll just be like, okay, fine, I'll be down there. But then she knows that I've given her that space to, when I'm off the call, she knows it's her time. But she may want to rest more, or she may want more exercise. But I'm going off on tangents. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that flexibility, isn't it? That our dog is different all the time, and their needs are changing. Who they are is changing. They could see one dog one day and be like, "Ah, I hate you," and another day look at them and not give them a second look, because they feel different, because they've had more rest, or they're not in pain, or they've had a really good run at the beach, or you're more relaxed, or their person has just come back from holiday and is a bit more chatty.
Yeah, I've got a little story there. I've told this before, so maybe you've heard it. But I heard once exactly that. Like, who are you today? You're not the same person as were yesterday, right? We all just every day we have a new chance to be something completely different. And I was listening to this podcast and they were saying, well, just wake up and just say, I'm not the same person as I was today. I have no idea who I am today, but none of my past exists. I'm waking up like brand new today, and just see it with new eyes, like you used to say, Rachel, in your course. Just see it with new eyes, with open eyes, like you're going in to see the client and the dog for the first time and you have no idea. Don't come in with preconceptions. Just go in there with something completely new, a clean slate. And so I thought, I'm going to try this. And I did. I woke up one day and I went on the usual walk, but I just felt different. I just thought, I'm not the person I am yesterday. I am excited to see what happens in my day, right? Without thinking like of my to-do list and all these things. Anyway, so I started on my walk, and in the distance, I saw a lady that I had been seeing on this walk, on this route for many months. And she had two little dogs, and she was always looked very grumpy, and she was always shouting at the dogs. And so I always used to just give her space, move over. And I had already decided in my head that she was a grumpy lady and she had two grumpy dogs, and we would just get out of their way. But today was different because I decided I'm coming in completely different. I was not the person before. I don't have any preconceived ideas. And I just smiled. And I've moved to give her space. But all of a sudden, she looked up at me, and she let her two little dogs. She just dropped the leads, and the two little dogs ran up to say hello. They barked a little bit, but they said hello to my dogs. She looked up at me and said, "Oh, hello," like she had never seen me before. And I'd seen her day in, day out for months and months and months. And she was suddenly a different person because I hadn't labeled her that person that I thought she was. And I thought, this is really surreal. I can't believe this is actually happening. That she and her dogs can be totally different because I'm not labeling them the way I've always seen them.
Mm.
And this happened quite a while ago. This happened about 6, 8 months ago. And just 2 or 3 days ago, I saw her yet again. And she has become, I wouldn't say a friend of mine, but she's become one of those people that stop and we chat on walks every day. And she was always, we talk about the dogs, and she's a lovely person. And I'm always surprised how much she remembers about what I said, like, oh, you went on holiday and how was your walk yesterday and how did this go? She's an incredibly kind-hearted, good-natured person. But because I had put a label on her right at the beginning and decided that's who she was, that's how she appeared in my life.
Mm.
So for me, that was a very powerful and very real example of when we show up without the preconceptions of who we are, how we should be, and just like you said, Rachel, let our dogs, who are you today? Who are you today? And how does the world look through that lens? How does the world look through those eyes versus the ones that you saw the world yesterday? So that's my story.
I think like that story. That's one of my favorite stories. And I think, Rachel, you hit on something so important with, meeting your dog every day for who they are and talking about breed standards, which I think all of the information that's out there surrounding breeds training, whatever it is that you want to do, is important. And it's a great starting point when you feel drawn to something, but when it like maybe doesn't functionally work out for you in the way that you wanted it to work out, or the outcome that you had kind of set with like a goal, that's when I think great flexibility is needed. And it's where like my story with meeting you ladies came in, and Django was, we rescued this 9-week-old Australian Shepherd from a rescue, and we'd had one before, but the rescue was very adamant, like on their phone call for adoption, you're going to exercise them 2 hours a day, and you're going to do this, and they're going to, this guy is really going to have high energy. You need to, excuse me, you need to do this and this and this. So he was going to be my everything dog, right? My dog, sports dog, my everything. And we brought him home. And I mean, we started agility class, and we did frisbee, and he just ran and ran and ran and ran. And we made sure we walked him. I mean, he was my exercise. And then, he, in no uncertain terms, when he got to be an adult, through some health issues, which we know are bodies speaking to us and telling us information, he got very sick after a rabies vaccine and seizures and all these other things. We kind of had to quit doing it all, but we had created a super athlete, and he was never settled. He, like, when we would go to bed at night, he wouldn't go to bed. He never stopped moving. And it was just such a radical, oh shit moment, honestly, that we didn't know what to do. And that's how I met you guys, was, I was sort of seeking those answers and going through this process. And now today he's 12 years old, and he's the most loving, settled, amazing dog because I shifted. But I have to say, zoopharmacognosy is one of the things that really helped him and me calm down, right? Because our stress was playing off each other, and the more We tried to get him to settle down. The more my stress went up when it didn't work, and the pressure cooker explodes at some point, and then you realize, oh man, let's just start over and find things that maybe are more. I think we looked like the ball of wool that Darcy got into for a while, and then you start kind of raveling it back up again. But it's finding your zone. And I think every person and every dog and every experience is different.
Yeah, and I like the word pressure. Like I literally felt that this morning, even though we talk about it when we were talking about it on our last call, and someone locally had said, "Oh, why didn't we meet up and take the dogs to the beach?" And I love going to the beach myself, and I love taking Darcy to the beach, but I love going when it's quiet because I'm more relaxed when it's quiet and there's not cyclists, there's not joggers, because I know that she'll be running after them. She loves chasing stuff. So that for me personally doesn't light me up. But then I was like, oh no, am I really letting Darcy down? Like, all of my, that stuff. I'm like, oh, is she really missing out? Is this just my stuff? And then, I look at her, and this is when she's playing with the ball of wool. She's like got her feet in the air, and the wool is like all wrapped around her legs, and she's rolling it and then kicking dirt in it. And I just thought, that's me, that's me. That's my projection of what I think, because I see people walking their dogs on lead along the beach, and they're not chasing bikes, and they're not. And then I take her into the fields where she can flush and she can run and she can roll down hills. And I'm like, God, if I didn't have that awareness of that's my stuff, I would be trying to force this, which I did for a period. I was like, oh, I need to train her to ignore bikes, joggers, fast running dogs, seagulls,
The list goes on.
I'm like, oh, but she really gets a kick out of chasing that stuff. So I need to, but that's the bit, isn't it? Like, who is this dog in front of me? What does she love doing? Okay, how can I create it so she gets the things that she loves doing? And I'm also, I'm not going, oh God, this is gonna be a nightmare. We're doing it together. And so I'm checking in on her and looking at her in those moments and observing, is she thriving? Or is she look stressed? Does I need to put her in a different environment? I don't know, where am I going with this? It's the pressure, And that's when you're in your head, right? Because someone said something and you're like, oh, well, I should do that because everyone else is doing that. And that's what dogs are meant to do, isn't it? But who made that up? Like, where did that come from? But it's so massive. It is so huge. The shoulds, the oughts, they are literally so, I don't know, I feel like they sometimes shut down our listening to what our dogs really want and what we really want. And so when this guy said, oh, let's do it, and I thought, well, yeah, I love going to the beach, so I'll go to the beach and I'll do my beach time. We'll go to the beach together when it's the right time for us, and then all of the different stuff. So it's not like I was dismissing it because I had a reaction to it. So it's kind of like the shoulds, yeah, that doesn't resonate because I don't want to go early in the morning. But there was still part of me wanted that, and it's like, what's in that bit too? So I guess I'm untangling the wool now, right? So the shoulds are the bits that like someone else has come up with, and it's like, does that resonate with me? But it's not always easy to know that that's not mine, that that's someone else's idea of what a dog is. Because if we haven't been taught to really be comfortable with and explore who we are and what we want and who our dogs are and what they want, then we'll just go with the shoulds. And then we beat ourselves up on a daily basis because we're failing and messing up. So the antithesis, is the antithesis the right word? Not the antithesis. The antidote to the shoulds is that, who are you today? Like, what do you need, like, in your little world? And how can we grow together? And how can I learn about you and you learn about me? And it literally, watching Darcy with this ball of wool, right? Just this ball of wool, and watching how she's so embodied in that moment, with, like, she had it in her feet, she's using her teeth, she's teasing it, she's rolling in it, she's smelling it, she's stretching it, she's looking at me for interaction with it. And I'm just watching her in just awe of how beautiful it is to be her. And even when she's barking at someone that's gone past her fence, and she's in that moment of expression and, like, whatever that is for her in that moment. There are times when I can feel that I'm like, oh no, that's my neighbor. They're gonna look at me and think yada yada yada. And I've learned to really sit with that and sit and know that that's my stuff. That's my nervousness about being, looking like a moron or whatever. But other times I look at her and I'll be like, yeah, you go, you express yourself from your vocal cords. When I do that, it's almost like her energy shifts, because I'm not, when your dog starts barking and then you kind of go to, like, move them back, and that's when it gets bigger, doesn't it? It's like, rah. Whereas if I'm with her and I'm like, yeah, you have a good shout about, what are they doing? Like, and I'll kind of be with her with it. It changes for me too, because I feel like we're together then, and I'm hearing her and I'm feeling me and her, and it's just a different. And then she's like, "Oh, we're done now, right? What's for dinner?" And it's just like, I love how present dogs are, and that really is I guess the thing that I'm working on more and more is to become more present and connected with her. And that may mean I'm late for a Zoom call or early for a Zoom call because I've got caught watching her in a ball of wool or untangling a caterpillar from a spider's web. But I feel like that's a really important part of our journey with our dogs. Yeah.
I'm going to grab the self-exploration thread there, because I think that is key. Because I think that when we get into, like you said, the shoulds of how we should be doing this and how we should be supporting our dogs or training our dogs or stopping them from chasing X, Y, and Z, we're not looking at self-exploration. We're not looking at self-learning. We will give the dog instruction on what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And that leaves no room for the dog's self-exploration. And that is the most powerful way of learning. As we know, children learn that way too, right? Through doing and through exploring and through making mistakes and through getting it wrong and whatever. That is the most powerful way we as humans can learn, and our dogs too. And when we start putting on all the methods and methodologies and telling them how they should behave and what they should be doing, we are taking that away from them. We're taking away that self-exploration, just like you were describing there with Darcy and her wool and how she was feeling it and, using every part of her body and her senses to gain information and to interact and play with that wool. She's getting so much information into her body at that time and learning so much. So for me, it's play and as you say, just allowing dogs to be dogs and seeing the satisfaction that they get in doing that and exploring their own worlds, as it were. And they don't need half as much as we think they need. I don't believe. I think they just need the space to, like you say, to interact, to explore, to discover, because they are curious by nature. And sometimes we take that curiosity away from them when we're constantly controlling them and saying, do this, do that, do the next thing. They lose their ability to be curious. They lose their ability and their self-confidence to explore. That's something that's a natural, that comes naturally to them. So that's what I would love to see moved in more in that direction of, like you said, just getting to know the dog in front of you and just enjoying and exploring and allowing them to explore too and learn that way.
Mm, powerful. I love where this is taken off to. I mean, it's like the should has become like the drug addiction, right, of the dog world almost, where we think they should behave this way, and the societal implications of what like we put on your dog should behave this way, they should love every other dog, they should live to be 25, they, I mean, and you just take away, like you said, that exploration and their experience in this world when we start to overpower them with shoulds. And I mean, I'm guilty of it all the time, but Zori is our youngest. She's 5 now. How is she 5? Goodness. But she loves to like bark. And I mean, we were on our call last week and my husband Jim left for work and she chased the car down the hallway. And if we were outside, she would have chased and barked the car down. And it used to put me off. And I'm just like, oh, she shouldn't do that. And now when she starts barking at something outside, I kind of treat it like a conversation. And I'm like, what? What happened? No, what? And then what? And it's like when you start, and then she'll keep doing it, and she'll looking. She's like engaged with you, and we just make it playful. And she's usually we have a ground squirrel, like a chipmunk that lives right outside our window, and he likes to get up in the window and just stare in the house. And she's just so excited by it, and you know they just play with one another, and it's really cute, but it's not a quiet game. It's not quiet like the ball of, but like that's who she is, and she's just playful. And I think that self-expression and everything you said, Sue, it's so important. And animal communication is one of my primary things, and I would say 90% of the clients that come to me say, am I letting my dog down? And Rachel, you said that, am I letting Darcy down? And it really hit me here because it is something that I hear so often, and it just isn't true. Mm-hmm. We're just experiencing this life together, and we're blessed that we have animals by our side to learn it in a different way, that we're sharing this life with different species. And I don't care, we talk about dogs because that's what we have, but it could be a cat, a Komodo dragon, a snake. I mean, right? It's just any being. It could be your favorite plant. To bring it back to plants.
It's the experimentation a bit. I think that's people, and I know, yeah, myself too. When there's a fear. So I'm thinking of, I've got a friend who we walk Darcy with sometimes, and there's a fear that her dog will eat. Well, it comes back to zoopharmacognosy, doesn't it? People have a fear of their dog eating certain grasses, but that the fear is there because they haven't got the information about what's actually happening. So they're probably thinking, oh, my dog is going to get sick from that. But when you start to understand that dogs have that innate, as do we, that innate ability to seek from the plant kingdom what it is we need, then it goes from a fear to a curiosity. So Darcy's recently been eating hawthorn berries. She doesn't forage for anything else, just hawthorn berries. And my partner was walking her on her own, and she kept pulling her away from them, and I was like, yeah, but she knows what that is. So it's the I feel it's the fear exists because we haven't got the understanding of the the dog and what things from their perspective. So sometimes just that one bit more of information can make you go, oh, okay, I get it. I understand them, as opposed to trying to, because the fear leads to control, right? When we're fearful of something, then we try and control it. And then the dog will push back on that. Like, dogs eating poo. This maybe isn't a fear thing, but dogs eating poo. And the solution is, and I'm not saying this is wrong, but this often the solution is to pull the dog away from it, or to muzzle them, or whatever other methods. But why are they eating poo? What else is going on? Is it that they're seeking some nutrients? Are they hungry? Or is it that this is the only opportunity they have to have agency about what they're ingesting? Because that person is so meticulous about what goes in the bowl. And I know, like, I've just made a massive vat of tomato soup, like really beautiful fresh soup. I'm going to put some pumpkin seeds on there, but I'll probably have a bag of crisps. Like, let's keep it real. And I'll chase it with a bar of chocolate. So, as much as I love putting good food in my body, and I would love to have my own personal chef, if I had a personal chef that was like weighing everything out, I would be sneaking into sneaking into the chocolate cupboard and eating that at midnight. And it's the same equivalent, isn't it? From, as one of the examples, is that when we understand, and that's where animal communication is amazing, because you're pulling it in from their perspective. When you understand what they're actually trying to tell us, we're not then controlling them anymore. We're empathetic. And then maybe it's feedback for us that, like, if your dog is eating a lot of poo, it could be that maybe we eat a lot of shit. Excuse my French. Maybe we need to clean up our diet, or, I'm not saying that's it,
Yeah.
but it's exploring what else is going on for the dog, isn't it? Rather than like, stop that, what? And then, yeah, and then that's it. And then you've just got a dog that you need to like control and hang on to and micromanage everything. And it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I've so many times I've had clients say to me, something about, we get onto the topic of feeding, and they will say, well, I'm very, my dog only gets exactly what's in the bowl. They never get any table scraps. They never get any of this. And I go, why? And they said, because that's what's said, you don't it's a fully balanced meal. It's in their bowl. They don't get scraps. They don't get snacks. It's not healthy for them. And I said, oh, do you also eat like that?
Good one.
And it's just what you say. I mean, my dogs get everything they wait. They know they get table scraps every single day, unless it's got something like, I don't know, like yesterday we had curry, so they didn't get curry. But they literally get everything from the table. Or while I'm cooking, while I'm preparing vegetables, I'll cut some vegetables and they'll come and get them. Or yeah, and isn't that amazing? Isn't it fun to explore what your dog likes and doesn't like, and what they, yeah, again, just textures and things. I remember bringing back I had bought a whole kale plant, basically, not just the leaves. It was the leaves were still on the plant from the farmer, and I'd cut the leaves off, and I was going to make a soup with that. And then I had this whole thing, and I was going to throw it away, and I thought, no, let me just offer it to the dogs. And Layla spent like an hour. She ripped it into pieces. She ate a little bit of it. She rolled in it. She did all sorts of funny things in just this big stalk of
Wow.
kale, kale stalk. But again, it was just allowing them, let them do what they want with it. Don't just say, don't assume that they don't like it or don't want it or it's bad for them or what are all the other things. Just let them express, explore, have fun.
I love
Does
that.
were you going to say something, Kim?
No, I love that. And I was just going to ask Rachel, are you somebody who keeps like a shoebox full of like snacks under your bed?
No, 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 because I would have eaten them all. My partner Bex isn't as much as a sugar addict as me. I wouldn't say I'm a sugar addict. I'd say I like my chocolate. Like really like my chocolate. And she'll don't get me on the topic of chocolate because I will need my own, room. I could talk the hind leg of a donkey about chocolate, but she will come. I'll say, "Oh, don't get me any chocolate because if it's there, it will be talking to me because it's in the fridge. And it'll be like, hey, Rachel, come and get the chocolate." And she'll agree to it, and it'll probably last for about 2 days where she won't get it, and I'll be thinking, "Oh, she hasn't got any chocolate," even though I've said don't get any chocolate. Do you do that? And
Yes.
then yeah, right. So then what she'll do is she'll hide it, but she forgets that I love searching for things. And I love open, and I'll be like, "Have you found?" I love the actual search of finding a surprise chocolate bar, and she'll put it in such obvious places. I mean, it's not like we have a big house, but I I understand that pleasure that dogs get from searching for stuff.
And finding a
Like,
treasure.
and finding it. We were on this walk once. This is completely unrelated to anything whatsoever. Well, no, it's not. It's very related. And the three of us were out walking, me, Bex, and Darcy. And way ahead was this couple. And I think they'd walked past us, or we'd had a very brief interaction. Very, very brief interaction. And they'd walked past us and they were way ahead. And I I didn't have my glasses on, and they just turned around. I thought they were waving at me, and I went, "Have you found something?" And Bex was like, "It's not the famous five. I went on a treasure hunt." And they were just taking photos, but I just had it in my head that they'd found like a treasure, and it was some, where you just anyway. Maybe that's just me.
I'm having a Goonies moment right now. A combination Goonies searching for treasure moment with like, I don't even remember, is it Chunk that liked the chocolate bars?
Yeah, that's me.
And then Steinfeld where they're like Kramer's always hiding the key to his apartment, but he's always hiding it right in front of Jerry. And he gets all mad at him, and it's just awesome. And now I'm going to go back because I think I'm going back to the food thing and just
Yeah.
like the exploration, because I think the opposite perspective of that is, isn't it amazing when like a dog comes along that actually has massive food allergies and reactions, how they end up with someone who is extraordinarily meticulous, that is willing to make those very specific meals and do those very specific things, and after a while try this or try this and see if it works and can they shift. And I mean, I'm just always amazed that the dogs and the people attract one another in a way it's unexplainable to me. Django ended up in our care, and we have a big property for him to run on. So there's not the pressure of walking on a busy street. We don't have sidewalks around, and we don't have trails. We have trails that have a lot of bicycles, like the racing kind of bicycles. They ride like 30 miles an hour, and it's very dangerous for people to walk on it, let alone animals. So we have this space where we can go out and create this environment. But I just, it always like puts me kind of in that state of universal amazement how we end up with being, the perfect being in that moment of our life. And I think like I always see it as like all of our dogs have come through a season of my life and Jim's life as we've been there. We had the most docile dog who never wanted to do anything. He literally exercised for about 5 minutes a day, and during that time I had like one knee surgery after another after another after another, and I was off my feet on the couch for months. I'd say probably the better part of 3 years. I couldn't even really walk down the street. And we had this lazy dog who just wanted to sit by me. And it was unbelievable, and then here comes Django.
Wakey,
Right,
wakey.
right after, right? Like, the rest is over, lady. Get up. So it's like, I just like it. It's like this whole, it's just a beautiful orchestra. I'm going to throw in classical music.
Yeah.
We were talking about jazz.
Contradict the jazz. So I'm going to take that now to something that came to me this morning about life hacks. You hear this a lot wherever you go. Oh, what's the life hack here, or the hack to do this, or the hack to do that? Because we're often looking for shortcuts, right? Or we say, I even remember saying it, like we want to share our process in order to help people to miss the mistakes. Do you know what I mean? So that they don't mess up, so they don't have to go through the process of making those mistakes. And it's well intended. It's obviously well intended because I want to help you to not make the same mistakes as I did. But what we're doing is shortcutting our own learning, our own process. And what you were saying now, Kim, about each dog is different and each dog brings a different process into our life and a different something, something else we got to learn together or go through together, etc. And when we go that life hack route, when we say, okay, well, just give me the ABC, or let me do it the way that person did it because their dog and they look great, they are a great team, they've got it all together, so let me do it their way. Or instead of exploring your own way with your own dog and the two of you together, I think you miss so much. I think you miss so many beautiful interactions and lessons and understanding. And we all know our dogs have taken us down incredible routes and paths where we've met each other, where we've learned new skills or gone down rabbit holes of learning zoo pharmacognosy and nutrition and you name it, right? And that's because we were open to experiencing and listening. I'm sure at some stage we took those short hacks or those shortcuts, but did they actually lead us to where we want to go was my thought this morning. Or do we all need our own process anyway? We all need to go through the experience to really be able to embody it and learn it and take it on board. So that's my little bit about life hacks that came to me today. Do you really want a life hack? If so, why? Why do you need it? And what's it going to help you gain? And what are you going to miss if we do that?
What's one life hack you've tried, Sue?
Life hack that I've tried. I think for me it would be like taking somebody else's advice, like the marketing for your pet business, Try
Don't
this
get us all
hack.
started.
Try this hack. You got to do it this way. Oh, I'm going there. I'm going there. They got it right. They've got it sorted out. And it feels like a quick fix. So how many courses I've bought and how many webinars I've watched and how many different technologies and platforms and everything because I was trying to do it somebody else's way. I was trying to do it their way because they seem to have it figured out. And so I thought if I could just hack it and just do it their way, I'll get to my goal very quickly where I want to go. And all I can say is after years and years and years, I've actually just thrown it all up and said, I don't do marketing anymore because
But I
none of it
guess,
worked for me.
I guess I'm coming back to the ball of wool. Like, don't we take bits, don't we? We take bits
Yeah.
from different people, and then we might, I don't know, say like I give you a ball of dough, and then you mold it into a squirrel because you've got
I
great
can.
pottery skills. And then Kim pulls the head off and like molds that into some kind of hawk, some wild creature. And then I mash it. We take bits from each other, don't we? And then we mold it into what works for us. And then we put that out. And so it's that reciprocal receiving, giving, learning, teaching. I'm sure there's other words that because I look at back at, I can't think of anything specific, but look back at courses I've done, and there've been some like the zoopharmacognosy with Caroline Ingraham. Like that was the best. Oh, I loved it. Like I loved it, and then I ran with it and went with it in my own way because that was the starting point for me. And not everyone will. And when people learn with me, some will go off and run with it in their own way. And that's the beautiful thing because they're adding in their ingredients. It's like a dish,
Mm.
isn't it? And it's yeah, the core principles might still be there, but you don't have to take it on. Like you can just
Mm.
be like, oh, I like that bit, but like I like the
And
saxophone in the jazz, but I don't like all the other stuff.
I get
I like the
this.
cymbals.
But that's just it, isn't it, Rachel? Is if you go in there with that mindset, that again, going back to that curiosity mindset, what else can I learn here? What else is there for me in this? Or what might I take away from that?
Mm,
Versus let me go there because they've got the answer and I'm going to do it that way. That's where
yeah.
I think a lot of us get stuck, whether it's with our dogs, whether it's our personal lives, our businesses, etc. It get just yeah, that ball of wool also reminds me of that coming unraveled. That to me, how afraid are we of becoming unraveled? That feels like, when we like, oh, when we fall apart, what happens? We're so scared of doing that. So we try and control and keep all the bits and pieces together and do what we're supposed to, do what society says, because we're so scared of coming unraveled. And yet in that unraveling is where you, with that ball of wool with Darcy, learned something completely different about her and about how she, yeah, just gaining all that beautiful sensory input through that. You
Mm.
saw her with it in different eyes, didn't you?
Yeah, and like when I put it down, there was like I picked it up and put it down, and then it formed the shape of a dog. And I'm going to go off on one a little bit because when I saw the wool, it reminded me of years ago, maybe just when I was learning about essential oils, and I was working in the fire service. I was working in the control room, ironically, and wearing a uniform covered in dog hair. And it was a great job because, there was a network of people. But I remember sitting in that space thinking, this isn't it. This is great because it's given me the space to learn about the things I really love. And it's given me the stability and the income to learn about the things I really love. But this isn't it for forever. And and I remember sitting there thinking, oh, someone maybe had asked me a question. They said, what if you could be any animal, what would it be? And I said, oh, a bird, because I love the idea of flying and like soaring on the air. And I just thought that, that's just what popped in my head. And I went home and I had my boy Baxter at the time, my Weimaraner, and he was ingesting German chamomile essential oil. So he would take it in a little bit of oil and then yeah, so it was diluted. So I'd gone home and I'd put down oil in a bowl, just a base oil, and I just did one drop of German chamomile essential oil, and then this perfect shape of a bird landed in the bowl. And I was just, because I was quite skeptical in those days, like probably own skeptical 90%, 10% curiosity. There was more skepticism than anything else. I was like, that's crazy. What on earth has just happened there? But it was so perfect because it was just, I needed at that time, I needed something more mystical come into my life. I needed something a bit more magical. I needed a mirror, or I needed to start seeing nature in a different way as opposed to through this kind of black and white, right, wrong, good, bad lens. And it just this, from this one drop, to see this beautiful, is it a metaphor or this story of what, and that's where it took me, that the German chamomile and Baxter, that's where the kind of the bird in flight, my life started to take off and go off in a different direction. I started to, yeah, not always fly. I definitely smashed into a few buildings, went down some chimneys, probably got rope wrapped around my legs and landed in a cage a few times. But it just, I don't know where I'm going with that. But there's something in those, yeah, maybe I'll hand you the thread, but there was something in that moment that kind of blew my mind about how nature is so perfect and we get attached to what we think it should look like. Well, like the tree should grow upright and the branches, it doesn't work like that. We know it doesn't work like that. So when the tree is leaning off to the left, we're not going, oh, that tree's malfunctioning. We look at it and we're in awe of it potentially, unless there's something else going on, unless we're seeing there's a disease. But even if we're looking, if there's a bigger picture, we can see the disease as part of something else going on in the ecosystem. So there aren't really mistakes per se, are there? It's just our perception of it that thinks there's something going wrong. But now we understand about what goes on. I'm going off on one here, ladies, so feel free to jump in at any point. But now we understand now that there's this conversation happening under the trees, the mushrooms and the mycelium, and there's so much we don't know yet. So when we call something a mistake or we say it's gone wrong, that's just because we haven't got the whole picture yet. We don't know what else is going on behind the scenes. So yeah.
I'm gonna do the Capricorn thing now and
Right.
play off that ball thread and like organize it just a little.
I like it because I am the messy ball of thread. You're just going to reel it back in with your knitting needles.
I'm gonna go back to like the life hacks and where we're always, Sue, when you were telling your story there, it's like we just went right back to that outcomes versus experiences. And it's like when we let ourselves experience a course or whatever, but we don't have an attachment to it
to the
fixing,
outcome. Yeah.
right? To the outcome, like we just experience it, we're going to take something really important. And I think much like Rachel, you were saying, it's like you're 90% skeptic, and then you get these signs. It's like, I think I was that person. I was so sure this person knew exactly everything and I wanted to be them. And I can look back when we were doing your Zoo Pharma course, Rachel, and it was like, I loved how you challenged us with intuition because I wasn't there yet. When I took that course, I was a software designer and everything was it worked, it didn't, it was black, it was white. I wrote
Ones and zeros only.
It was very creative now that I look back on it when I realize what I'm doing today, but at the same time, it was very structured. But I was happy in structure, and now my ball of wool just went. Darcy got a hold of my ball of wool. That's all I'm going to say. But then I also had this vision, right, of like the ball of wool being like the cycle of, destroy and rebuild. And, you can look at it as a hurricane or a volcano as destructive, or you can look at it as birth of new life. And like a hurricane cleans the beaches that need to be cleaned and brings in new sand, and yet it destroys the things that animals nature have built, and maybe people get rehomed or whatever. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it's like this whole thing it's such a beautiful orchestration. And what you're saying now, to bring it back to nature and trees that lean to the left, I mean, yeah, we're going to grow in all kinds of directions, whether we want to or not. I just don't think we don't get to choose that. We might get to, experience some pretty tough stuff, if we don't pay attention, but it's how soon can you feel those feelings, or do you keep sweeping them under the rug? And like, my rug got piled so high, and then all of a sudden, I thought I could hire a cleaning person to do it, but I haven't.
Outsource,
That's the next one. That's the
outsource.
next one, hire somebody else. They've got the answers. They'll, tell me
Right.
what to do, whether it's with our dogs or our personal issues or whatever it is, get somebody else to do it. You're a professional, tell me what to do. How do I get rid of this, We're so used to that. And Rachel, I'm going to go back to the nature thing, Kim, that you said there. I had this picture of this little girl that was probably me I'm seeing, learning to draw nature in kindergarten or first grade. How we would learn to draw a flat earth, and then a stalk, and then the tree, right? And then the next, and the flower. And that's how we would learn to construct. That's how we were taught to construct it. We were never sort of said, go out into nature and and see what you could draw, because then it would probably be a big ball of wool. I mean, there would be trees over here, and there would be this, that over there, and you would present your picture, and they would say, well, not a very pretty picture, so you only get 2 stars. And the one who drawn it with zero imagination, who'd just been taught how to, draw the tree as a tree should be, and the sun in the right-hand corner shining down, they would have got 5 stars. And so we basically programmed for perfection, aren't we? We programmed to not make mistakes. We programmed for it to look um, very bland and not how it really is. And so when life doesn't sort of show up for us in that perfect picture, I think that's why we don't do well with change. We don't do well with imperfection, because we've forgotten that nature is all of it. It's perfect and imperfect all the time. I so often walk through the forest and think we've got a certain piece of forest that is not kept. It's specifically for that reason. It's allowed. The old dead wood is there. The trees are allowed to die and fall there. They don't remove them or anything. It's just an ancient piece of wood.
Lovely.
And because it's a project, they want to see how it regenerates and how, different species come up there. And it is. It's the most beautiful ecosystems that are happening there. And I think that's just, again, something we can learn from nature. It's not perfect. It's perfectly imperfect. And so are we. And so we should allow that too.
We've all gone silent.
What is the time? What is the time?
I was just gonna say, I mean, I was waiting for Rachel, but I'll go.
You go.
I was waiting for another Rachel tangent. There just was.
Oh my God, you need to reel me
And
in.
I
I'm
was
like a kite.
I need the oxygen tank. I was holding my breath waiting. I love like that, like what you just said too, because we have a big garden, and for the first time this year, like we just let it go to see what would happen, because I've been trying to control like weeds around here or this around there, and we have a lot of herbs and fruits and things like that, and we're not getting, like, our berries look beautiful and then they don't produce berries, and I'm like, well, maybe we just need to like let it go and see what happens this year. We planted zinnias last year in one spot of our garden. We didn't plant any this year, and they're everywhere. And like it's unbelievable, like the beautiful way that like the garden is just taking shape, and how things have jumped from here to like somewhere far away. And yeah, I mean, it's astounding how we have chamomile growing in pots, and Aesop growing in other pots, and then they're growing together, and wild onions just springing up, and it's wild. Strawberries where we never planted them. It's just very cool to watch, and like the birds come, or the chipmunk comes and eats a strawberry and then puts the seeds somewhere else, and the birds eat like berries and then put seeds somewhere else, and it's
But
such a beautiful
I love
process.
I love that analogy, Kim. How would you use that for us humans? How would you apply that? I'm just thinking, I'm curious. I don't know. I'm curious.
It's a good question.
How do we apply something like that where nature just has its own Yeah, it seems random, right? It seems random, your garden. That that seeds are randomly over there and that this is randomly over there. And
And
yet it works. And yet it works.
right. And I don't think anything's random. But
Mm.
I think, like, how did we end up here? We ended
Mm.
up here because we've all tried all the life hacks and we've each other, right? And like there was something that right now was the time. And
Mm.
we've talked about it for a while, but today was that time. And I think every day we're granted opportunities. Sometimes they're minuscule and we don't even understand the decision point. But I think, when you think of birds spreading seeds, you get an opportunity for something and you just say, this one looks really delightful. I'm going to try it. And I think that's what happened with us coming together, in this moment. It was that seed that a bird dropped and we both said, ooh, that looks delightful.
Mm.
So I think and I know that's how I felt about Zoo Pharma, and I can go through my process of all these things. And some things I've let go, like archetypal consulting, for example, I just don't do it anymore. But all of those lessons just have planted seeds somewhere that are now fruiting into something completely different.
Mm.
So I think that's it. Like, it's seizing the opportunity and saying, that sounds delightful for me, for our dogs, for, whatever.
And again, I'm going to pull that back to what we were talking about. It's that curiosity, stepping out of the box, seeing different perspectives, taking different opportunities, not being attached to what's going to happen and just saying, well, where's this going to go? What's the excitement? What's the magic in this? And I think that's what we are all about here, actually, the three of us, is we exploring things. What is it? Unruly. What are we, Kim?
Unruly
Unruly
by
by
nature,
nature.
baby.
Unruly by nature. There we go. It brought
I'm
us
just
to our
wondering which
name.
one's pooping out the seeds.
I'm ingesting them.
Oh, you're ingesting. Okay, I'll own the pooping out the seeds.
I'm just creating the mess. I'm off on the side playing with the wool ball.
I
Oh,
love that.
brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, I feel like that's a wrap. Do
I
you feel
know.
like that's a
I think
wrap?
that's a perfect place to end off. We brought ourselves and we've explained to you how on earth we got the name Unruly by Nature.
We were just a seed in the wind,
Exactly.
dropped by a pooping bird.
A bird
I
comes in
love
again.
that.
Oh, ladies, it's been so much fun. Thank you. We're
Thank
not
you.
we said we're not doing introductions. If any of you want to know or get in touch and see what we do, it'll all be in the show notes. We're not doing fancy introductions, but I hope that you've all got something out of this. And I just want to say, for those of you who managed to watch this till the end, there's some you probably like jazz music.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't. Yeah, so ladies, who wants to say goodbye?
I love it. Kim's waiting for me to jump in.
Tangent, tangent.
Au revoir, adios.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.